A very good morning to you all, children. So, how you have been doing? Hope all of you are fine, staying at home, enjoying with your parents, as well as watching our videos. So, here I am with you all again, your biology teacher at Dr. Bison School, to explain you further about the excretion chapter. Okay, so all of you are ready with your notebook, textbook, and the stationery. If you are not ready, go quickly get them, pause the video, and please keep them all. Then you start the video. So, in the previous video, we have learned one very important process. What is that process? That is dialysis or hemodialysis. When is it carried out? It is carried out in the patient who is suffering from ESRD. What is that? That is end stage renal disease. And in that there is accumulation of waste fluid in the body, swollen legs, hands and all. So that is called as uremia. In that condition, I told that the person may have to take up another kidney. Okay, that means the kidney must be transplanted. But before that, since the person has to survive till the transplantation of the kidney, he can go for artificial this one what is the dialysis. Okay, that is called as dialysis or hemodialysis, wherein an artificial kidney is arranged for the patient. So in the previous video I had explained about the artificial dialysis, artificially taking out the urine from the body. So how it was carried out? A quick recap. Yes, the urine is, the blood is collected from a major artery. Then that is connected to a dialyzing machine, within which the tank is connected to a input of dialyzing fluid or the dialyzer. Okay, that is similar to the composition of our blood plasma, but it does not contain the nitrogenous waste, and it will contain many cellophane tubes which are permeable in nature. So as the blood enters into the dialyzing machine, it is a substance called as heparin or an anticoagulant is pumped into that, so that the clotting of blood does not occur. Then the blood passes through that. As it passes through that, the blood contains more nitrogenous waste, whereas the dialyzing fluid does not contain. So all the nitrogenous waste flow into the dialyzing fluid. Now from here, the waste substances or the nitrogenous waste are collected separately. Okay, now the purified blood is connected back into the body through an important vein. So this is the whole process of artificial the dialysis or hemodialysis. Now how the artificial kidney works. Okay, now the modern techniques have helped the people to arrange for an artificial for an kidney transplantation. So for the first time in 1954, okay, in 1954, the first kidney transplantation was performed between identical twins. Okay, this kidney transplantation was performed between identical twins. Why do you think it is identical twins? Because easily the body accepts the tissue of the other. Okay, kidney transplantation. This was carried out in 1954. Okay, by Dr. Charles Hufangel. Okay, this was carried out by Dr. Charles Hufangel. Sorry, little bit mistake. HUFNAGEL, Charles Hufangel. Okay, in Washington, USA. In USA. But in India, it was carried out on 1st December 1971 in CMC Vellore, Christian Medical College, Vellore in India. Okay, so from then the kidneys are transplanted between, either it could be a relative, close relative preferably, okay, or else it could be any other donor. Okay, normally the person would not donate. If it is a close relative, it can be a mother, father, brother, sister, wife, husband, son, daughter, anyone who can donate, who is healthy enough, both the kidneys are healthy, then such a person can donate to the close relative. Now, one condition they will see whether the patient's body accepts that or not, because there will be a reaction. Okay, if it doesn't, the tissue does not accept, then the patient's body will react to that. So first that is checked. If at all it accepts that, then there is a chance of donating the kidney. Apart from this we have seen that the close relatives can be donating their kidney if they are healthy enough. Apart from this, the kidney can also be donated, can be taken up, transplanted or taken up from a person who is brain dead. And so many times we see that in the accidents and all, a person is brain dead. Okay, in such condition, in very less time, the kidneys can be transplanted. Okay, so like that so this whole process is called as organ donation. It's not only the kidneys, it could be the eyes, it could be the heart, it could be the liver. So different parts could be donated by the people who are brain dead. Okay, from their body these organs can be donated. For that, we can either give in writing before our death, like we don't anticipate our death, isn't it? So if I want to donate my kidney organs, then I can write it in, give it in writing that my organs may be donated to the hospital. Okay, whichever organs are in working condition, if at all I am brain dead, my organs can be donated. Okay, so this process is carried out, and this is in detail given after the lesson. You can open in the annexure, you can go through. Okay, after the lesson, you can go through in the annexure, organ donation, a gift for life. That is also called as cadaver donation. Cadaver means dead body. Okay, so that dead body can also be donated. So a person who is dead. So here a boy is dead. So approximately his name is H.S. Yashwant. So this was carried out in H.S. Yashwant. His father Shiva Kumar. He told about the organ donation wing of Jeevandan scheme on Thursday. Yashwant had met an accident on June 15th while he was traveling in a shared auto rickshaw from Jagadgiri Gutta. He was rushed to Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences, that is NIMS in Hyderabad. Okay, the neurosurgeons at NIMS declared him brain dead. Jeevandan counselors obtained the consent of Mr. Shiva Kumar, who agreed to donate Yashwant's kidneys, 2 heart valves, liver. These organs were retrieved and sent to various hospitals for transplantation. Dr. Swarnalata, in charge of Jeevandan scheme, said in a statement, "Think how great Yashwant's parents are." So like that, if at all any person accidentally dies, then these can be donated. Apart from this, we can also donate organs like pancreas, skin, bone, intestines. Eye donation is very common, isn't it? So all these can be donated. Okay, so this is a very, very important thing. Generally they would ask the question about how do you appreciate organ donation. Okay, then you have to write about all these organs. Okay, how they can be donated from a brain dead patient, and many people can make use of those organs, or else they simply go waste, isn't it? So this, about this you can write. Now as I said, this kidney transplantation. Okay, so what happens is, as I told, it can be between the close relatives or any outside donor also, but the immune system should accept the recipient's system should accept the kidney. On accepting that, the kidney is transplanted. In such condition, what happens is, see the picture that is given on the text in the textbook, page number 84. Can you see the difference in the kidney transplantation? See, in the first picture you see that there are 2 kidneys. In the second one you see that the new kidney that is there, that is not replacing the old kidneys. Okay, the old kidneys remain in the same place, but it is placed much lower. Okay, much lower near the urinary bladder. Okay, in that place it is kept, and like this the kidney is transplanted from a healthy person to a person who is suffering from ESRD, and the patient may live very have a long life. Okay, so this is all about the kidney transplantation. So all of you have understood. So here, so the kidney transplantation is very, very important. Next we shall go to the excretion in other organisms. Last part in the excretion in animals. This is the last part. So we have already studied about kidney transplantation also, completed that part. Next we shall go to the evolution. See, all the chapters we have been studying about evolution, how the different organisms have evolved to have different types of organs, whether it is the respiratory organs, it is the circulatory organs, or it is the excretory organs. So this table is very, very, very important. It can come for 4 marks, 2 marks, bit part, however they want, they can ask this table. So just the way I told the diagrams and all like that, this table is very important. So here I write the excretory organs and the phylum. All of you must learn, write the table and learn that. Okay, so the different phylums and their excretory systems that they possess. So in a tabular form, we all need to write this. Here in this first part, I write the phylum, name of the phylum, and here in this I write the excretory system. Okay, children, so here I make a table for that. So this is the name of the phylum. This is the phylum. Okay, I just write the phylum. This is the excretory system. Okay, the first one is what? First is what are the simplest animals? They are the protozoans, isn't it? In protozoa, you should remember examples also. I told that you all must remember the example. What example you can take? Easy one, amoeba. Okay, may I ask as amoeba, in that what it is? Okay, or you can take paramecium. Paramecium. Amoeba, paramecium, euglena, okay, plasmodium, all these are protozoans. Okay, in them, how it will occur? By simple diffusion. It will occur by simple diffusion. They also possess the organ that is called as contractile vacuole. You can remember this, that is called as contractile vacuole, or by simple diffusion. Okay, next one is next one is porifera and coelenterata, both they have given. Porifera are the cellular level of organization they exhibit, isn't it? And coelenterata or nidaria. Coelenterata or nidaria. Examples. What would be the examples? For porifera it is sponges. Okay, coelenterata it is hydra. Coelenterata, hydra. So you can remember those. Now here what happens? They also undergo by gastrovascular cavity. That is, here the whole body bathes. Whole body. The water bathes the whole body. Sorry, water bathes the whole body. That means the cells are exposed to the water. They are all aquatic in nature, isn't it? That's why the water bathes the whole body. The water bathes the whole body. Okay, next one we shall see Porifera over, Coelenterata over, isn't it? Next one we shall see to Platyhelminthes, isn't it? This is very important for the bit part also. That's why you all must learn. Platyhelminthes example. What will be the example for Platyhelminthes? What it could be? Flatworm. Okay. Here it is the flame cells. It is the flame cells. You can remember only the name, that is enough. Okay, next one is nematoda or Nematohelminthes. I write nematoda. What be the example for nematoda? Easy to remember. Roundworm. Okay. So in this roundworm, we have got special organs. They are called as rennet cells. They are called as rennet cells. They are called as rennet cells. Next, after that we have got Annelida, isn't it? Next we have got Annelida. Example of Annelida, earthworm. Okay, in earthworm how it is carried out? In earthworm it is carried out with the help of nephridia. It is carried out with the help of nephridia. Okay, now the complete till here. Then I write on top again. Complete till here, all of you. Completed. So see here what happens. First is protozoa. In that examples are amoeba, paramecium and all. They excrete with the help of simple diffusion or contractile vacuole is there. Porifera and Coelenterata, they have got the gastrovascular cavity, and this one the canal system is there through which the water passes throughout the whole body. Okay, in the previous chapter also I have explained that, isn't it? So the same thing is there even for excretion, circulation, excretion, it is the same. Then Platyhelminthes. Platyhelminthes, they have got special cells which are called as flame cells. Then Nematoda, they have got rennet cells. Then Annelida, nephridia, somewhat like our nephron but little bit change. Okay, so these nephridia are present in each and every segment of the earthworm. It is all segmented, isn't it? So throughout those segments we can see these nephridia. In detail you should be studying in your intermediate if at all you take up biology. So I just rub it off. After Annelida, okay children, now after Annelida comes Arthropoda. Next one is Arthropoda. Example, easy to remember, cockroach. Okay, so here what do they have? They have green glands and Malpighian. This one specially has got Malpighian tubules. Cockroach has got Malpighian tubules, and some of them have got structures like green glands. Like the spiders and all, they have got the green glands, Malpighian tubules and green glands. Okay, the next one is mollusca. The seventh one is mollusca. They have structures that are called as metanephridia. Metanephridia. Okay, examples, easy to remember. Snail you can take. Okay, or you've got octopus. All these are from that only. Then the last one is echinodermata, water vascular system. Already in the previous chapter also I have explained about the water vascular system, isn't it? So I don't explain again. Echinodermata. Example is what? Starfish. Okay, they have a water vascular system. Okay, now in all the chordates, what are those? Right from Pisces, amphibians, reptiles, aves, mammals, all these possess kidneys. Okay, you know the examples, so I don't write any examples there. All these will you have the kidneys. So this is how the excretion occurs in all these different animals. I had explained tail, annelida, then arthropoda has got green glands or Malpighian tubules. Then mollusca has got metanephridia. Then this one echinodermata has got water vascular system. Then all these chordates. Okay, that is Pisces, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, aves, all have got different types of kidneys. Okay, depending upon their conditions, the kidneys will vary. And here I had explained about what type of urine they would be producing. It could be either ammonia or urea or uric acid. I had explained in the previous videos. So that completes the excretion in animals. Now coming to the excretion in the plant parts. Okay, what happens in the plant parts? Do they undergo excretion just like us or don't they? They also need to undergo excretion. They also accumulate some waste products. They are excreted. But compared to the animals, the excretion in the plants is very, very slow. So it is not very clearly observed or obvious in the plants. But we can come to know that it is excretion by certain products. Normally, if you consider a photosynthesis process, when the photosynthesis rate is more during the daytime compared to the respiration, because we know that the plants will be undergoing both respiration and photosynthesis, isn't it? So when the rate of photosynthesis is more, at that time what will be released from the body more? That is oxygen, isn't it? That is oxygen, and during transpiration water is released. So when these are being released more from the plant body, then we consider that those two are the waste products. But during the night time, when the plant is not using the carbon dioxide, okay, at that time the rate of respiration is more, isn't it? So at that time what happens? The plant could be releasing more amount of carbon dioxide. So at that time the carbon dioxide could be the waste. Similarly, plants which do not undergo photosynthesis, okay, they are non-photosynthetic plants. They could be the parasitic plants, okay, complete parasitic plants, or they could be heterotrophic plants like the fungi and all. So there they would be releasing more amount of carbon dioxide and water. So then that is also a waste product. So water, carbon dioxide, oxygen, when they are more for the plant, they are releasing all that. What is the other waste that they keep? Okay, what are the other waste products that they could be throwing outside the body? They are nothing but the waste like certain amounts of latex or certain substances which they produce for their protection. See, normally we find that the wild plants are there or the weeds are there. They are not eaten up by the grazing animals. They would be eating our plants which would be growing. But there are so many plants along the roadside, you would have observed, isn't it? But they are not eaten up by the animals. They are not eaten up by the grazing animals. Why? Why they don't eat that? Because they could be poisonous or they are toxic to the animals. They don't eat them. And why they are toxic? That is as a self-defense. Okay, and this self-defense, so they produce certain substances which are not very tasty for the animals, and they are not healthy also. They could cause some kind of poison to the animals. That's the way the plants would be excreting certain things. Apart from that, the plants also produce certain waste which could be stored in the leaves or in the fruits, okay, or in the seeds, okay. And as you find the regular leaf fall, isn't it? So when the leaf fall is there, at that time along with the leaves, the waste is lost, okay. Or in the in the fruits also they would be storing the waste products which are called as raphides. They are called as raphides. So here the next topic is excretion in plants. So it is excretion in the plants. So how they would be excreting, as I told, it is in the form of carbon dioxide, water or oxygen. I can consider as carbon dioxide, water, oxygen. Okay. So these are some of the waste products. And I also said that the waste is stored, okay, as the raphides in the fruits. These fruits in, so this carbon dioxide through the leaves, isn't it? Water, all these are lost through the leaves, isn't it? Through the stomata, these substances could be lost. Similarly, raphides in the fruits. Other wastes are also stored in the leaves. Okay, along with that, dry leaves also contain some wastes. Dry leaves also, some excretory products are there. Some wastes are there in the dry leaves also. Okay, so apart from this, it has also been found that the roots are also producing certain substances. Certain substances are secreted. Similarly, we find that the bark of the plant is also secreting. Okay, you can see that gummy substance or the latex or the rubber. Okay, all these are the products which the plant is secreting. If you find that Calotropis plant, gillade, you find that milky like substance, isn't it? So all that is the, and those are the secretions for their own protection. Similarly, they also produce the waste products, some, or they secrete certain substances to attract the pollinators or for the seed dispersion. Okay, so like that also they would be attracting by producing certain substances. So all these are considered as the excretory products. Now, in this think and discuss is given why weeds and plants are not affected by the insects and pests. I told that they are not affected by the insects and pests because they would be secreting certain substances which are poisonous to those insects or pests. That's why they are not eaten up by them. Okay. Now, apart from that, the plants also secrete certain substances. For example, the leguminous plants, okay, which have the root nodules. I have explained about the leguminous plants in the previous classes, isn't it? So they have small root nodules within which the rhizobium bacteria lives. So to attract the rhizobium bacteria, they would be secreting something into the soil. Due to that, it gets attracted and it starts living inside the root nodules. So this is also an advantage to the plants. Excretion or producing all these substances by the plant is very, very useful to the plant. Okay, children. So now we shall see further about the products. What are these excretory products? Normally we have studied about the proteins, carbohydrates, isn't it? Or the fats or different types of amino acids, all these things, or the nucleic acids, all these. So the normally the plant basically needs what? Carbohydrates, proteins or fats. All these are the major substances. So if they are not there, can the plant grow? If it doesn't have any glucose or any starch, or certain proteins are not there, or the fats are not there, then the plant may not grow. As these organic substances are required for the growth and development of the plant, they are called as primary metabolites. They are called as primary metabolites. Okay, whereas those which are not required for the growth and development, they are called as secondary metabolites. Okay, they are called as secondary metabolites. Metabolites means what? The substances that are produced during the metabolism. Metabolism means what? The reactions that occur throughout any organism. It can be a plant, animal, bacteria, anything. Whatever reactions that will be occurring inside the organism, they are called, that is called as metabolism. And whatever products are formed from that, they are called as metabolites. So the primary metabolites and secondary metabolites in case of plants. So the primary metabolites are required for the growth and development. Metabolites. Okay, children. So these are required for the growth and development. These are the biochemical, okay, substances produced in the plants required for growth and development. Growth and development. Okay. Examples are, this is an important one for 2 marks. Carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Okay. Whereas the secondary metabolites are which are not required for normal growth and development. Biochemical substances produced by the same thing only. Okay, produced by the plants but are not required for normal growth and required for normal growth and development. Okay, they are called as secondary metabolites. Examples are alkaloids, gums, tannins. Okay, gums, tannins, resins, etc. Okay, if they are not there also, nothing will happen to the plant. It can grow and develop normally, whereas without that it will not have a normal growth or development. That's why it is important. But these are important for the self-protection of the plant. Okay, and also for other purposes as I told. So please note down this, then I will go to the alkaloid table. You all have completed this? I think we'll stop at this. In the next video, I shall be explaining about the alkaloid table and then gums, resins, tannins, all that, because that's a very, very important topic. Please note down all this and remember, you have to learn about the primary metabolites and secondary metabolites. Thank you, children.